Hi everyone, RogueGold here, and today I wanted to talk about something that is a little bit different than we usually do around here, but as usual, tie it back around to The Division and use this as an opportunity to highlight some of the franchise's strength and resilience while we're in that period that we are with the game, and by that I mean the pendulum really seems to have swung back in the direction of cynicism and negativity lately with Season 11 and people's opinions on that. So I'm not here to change people's minds or anything like that, I simply want to offer some perspective. Who can't use a good dose of that? Very quickly, before we dive in, I just wanted to take a brief moment and give a major thank you to everybody in our community here, because this first month of 2023 has swiftly and decisively become the biggest month we've ever had here on the channel in terms of video retention, engagement, new faces, all of it. You all have absolutely crushed it with your support, and there's not even anything big going on with the game right now. I set out to go bigger and better than ever with the channel here in 2023, and so far you have all backed my renewed energy more than I could have ever hoped for, so from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. I see you, I appreciate it endlessly, and there's a lot more to come. So if you're new around here, I hope you're enjoying and that you'll consider sticking around. But without further ado, let's dive into today's topic, and that's covering a bit of the recent news as well as providing an analysis on the state of the looter genre within the industry and reflecting on how The Division compares to that. So if you didn't hear the recent news, it was announced last week that Marvel's Avengers is officially ceasing development and support. Now, as much as I don't think it should have been, the game was indeed a looter, the same as the likes of Division, Destiny, Borderlands, etc. For the record, I have not played the game. I considered buying it several times as I like the IP and the combat always looked fun, but between the fact that it did not seem like it should be a looter in my eye and the myriad of issues it supposedly had, I steered clear. Now, the official word that was released about this was that they're going to finish out one final update they had in the works with some minor fixes and changes. I believe that comes out in March, and then after that, no more content. They're going one step further, though, by saying that come September, the game will be pulled from digital marketplaces, physical copies will no longer be restocked, and all support will be pulled from the game, meaning if your save were to get corrupted or something like that, you're out of luck. No one will help you. And while they're still allowing owners to play the game in either single or multiplayer after this date, the fact that all support is gone and that you won't even be able to purchase the game anymore is wild to me. As an avid fan of a long-running live service franchise, The Division, it certainly makes you sit back and think. And I wanted to make it very clear here that I'm not covering any of this to try and gloat or say, oh, that game sucked or this game is better. My opinion, as somebody who has never played that game, doesn't matter. And to any developers who put their hard work into the title, or to any fans of the game who may be listening, I totally feel for you, and I'm sorry that something you were so passionate about is going away, or at least is no longer going to evolve and grow. You know, I'm sure some watching were around back in early 2021 when Division 2's fate was kind of in the balance as well. If not, what was happening back then was that things had been slowing down for a while and getting quieter for Div 2 heading into the new year, and we had known from social media and whatnot that major Division 2 developers had been leaving the project ever since earlier in 2020, so somewhat out of optimism, but also because it reflected the timeline from Division 1 to 2, many of us assumed that Massive was gearing up for a full development onto Division 3, and that we were soon going to get an official announcement about its existence. Well, come one early January morning, the news dropped that, surprise, Massive is making a Star Wars game, and that on top of this other Avatar game they were already making, that meant that there was pretty much no shot of a third AAA game being in the works too. And so, because we knew Division 2's team was already dwindling, we were like, well, what does that mean for this game, for our game? And we had to wait a few very long weeks to finally get confirmation that they were indeed going to make more content for the Division 2, and then, you know, a few months later they announced all their plans with the Division universe and all that, and of course that all led us to here. But I'll tell you, and I made a video on that news the day that it came out, you can go back and find it, when the possibility suddenly arose that Division might not be around anymore, or at the very least it was going to be going away for a very long time, that was crushing, truly. I mean, in the grand scope of life, it's a video game, I would have gotten over, but to quantify what a game, or a TV show, movie, book franchise, whatever it may be, to quantify what those worlds and stories mean to people in their own way is impossible, and evident by this channel existing, The Division means a whole lot to me and provides me with a lot of joy and escapism. So, while we fortunately did not end up down that road, I know the feeling all too well of having to accept the reality of something that you love like that going away, and so I'm sorry for any Marvel's Avengers fans out there. To widen the commentary here a bit, the game has now joined a number of looter titles that simply could never quite find their footing and grow an audience. Anthem comes to mind. That's in the same boat as Avengers, where it's confirmed to no longer be getting any support or content. Outriders, I don't know if they've fully said is done, but it hasn't gotten any content or major communication in months, from my understanding. Godfall has also just gone completely silent. I'm sure there's some other examples, but yeah, it's rough out there. And I guess that kind of brings me back around to The Division, because plain and simple, The Division 2 is still standing, despite the missteps, despite all the dead game comments people sling across the internet, which seriously, where do you all find the time? But yeah, with the perspective of just how many games don't make it these days, specifically in this genre, I just think, even if you aren't the most happy with it right now, it's important to recognize the significance of us still receiving content and updates for this franchise 7 7 years after it began. Now sure, it's not on Destiny's level, Division's not pulling millions of players and dollars per month, but the passion and desire for it is clearly not wavered, and at the end of the day, I think it really just comes down to its identity. The Division knows what it is. It's a best-in-class, third-person cover-based shooter with a rich world, rich lore, and some of the most engaging RPG and build-making mechanics in gaming. And even if you haven't agreed with every little decision made along the way, the franchise and its developers have never strayed from what made people fall in love with the DNA of this franchise all those years ago, and I think that's part of what's made it so resilient. You know, if I had to bet on it, and of course I'm not Ubisoft, I don't have the numbers in my hands to back this up, but I don't think it's us veterans and the long-term players who have kept this franchise going. I don't. Certainly we're a big part of why it has, but constantly chomping at the bit for new content isn't sustainable. I mean, even games like Destiny struggle to satisfy that constant hunger, right? No, what I really think does keep Division always on fire, always pushing forward, is the constant influx of new players. And it's because of its rock-solid identity that people stick around. Someone picks up the game for $5, see how immersive the world is, how solid the mechanics are, and here's, oh what, they're still adding more content to this game years later? Hell yeah, I want to stick around. And no better example than the recent Steam release to see this in action. You've got some existing players who are buying it just for the convenience of the launcher, sure, but beyond that, looking even at the Steam charts, and Buzz did a video about this recently, Division 2 has more people playing it than Battlefield 2042 on Steam alone. A 4-year-old game re-released on a new launcher beat a barely year-old game with a huge franchise following on an existing platform. Add that on top of the fact, several times a week I get comments on both my newer and older videos from people who say, I'm new to the game, I'm really surprised how fun it is, and I'm looking forward to unlocking this, playing that, etc. I mean, it's really just astounding, and at the end of the day, I think part of the formula is quality, I think some of it is luck, and some of it is just sheer fate, because to this day, the Division is still standing, and it's showing no signs of slowing down. I think Year 5 of the Division 2 is going to bring some really awesome stuff for players. Obviously, you all know how excited I am for Heartland, and the franchise is about to expand to an audience that is widely untapped as far as looters go with Resurgence. So it's stuff like this with the Avengers news that just gives me that boost of perspective to really sit back and think about how far we've come and how much farther we're going. And like I said at the start of the video, with all the Season 11 drama lately, the point of this video isn't to try and say, hey look, at least the game's not canceled, we should be grateful. I've aired some of my frustrations with the coming update, pretty much everyone else has as well. But more than anything, this Avengers news and the wider story of the looter genre in the industry reminds me that one controversial update isn't going to spell any kind of doom for the Division 2, regardless of what many others may be saying right now. It's a bump in the road, but fortunately for us, the car we're driving has got great suspension and it's got a lot of gas left in the tank. And although it's easy to lose sight of the bigger picture when you're in the front seat constantly looking at what's ahead, it's important to remember that there's a whole lot more people in the car than just yourself. Alright, that was a bit of a cheesy metaphor, but I think you all get my point. Don't let the mindless dead gamers out there make you forget the fact that our gaming community is in a lot better of a position than many others out there are, and that there's still a lot coming our way for years to come. Thank you all so much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and be sure to subscribe with notifications on so you can be updated every time I upload. Let me know your thoughts on this entire discussion, guys. What's your reaction and take on the news with Marvel's Avengers, and how do you kind of equate it to where we're at with the Division? Maybe you agree with some of what I said, see it in a different light. Whatever your thoughts are on the matter, I will as always anxiously await reading through them. And one last time before we close out, I just have to say thank you all once again so much for continuing to go on this journey with me. Thinking back to that early 2021 incident where we didn't know what the future of the Division would be, it reminds me of how I was prepared to step away from the channel if we learned things were indeed being canceled. Some of you may have heard me say it before, but it is truly my passion for this franchise that continues to fuel my desire to make content here on YouTube, and so I'm incredibly grateful that there has been more stuff for me to cover, and thinking back on how far we've come since that point, since I kept going with it, it's just really hard to believe. So thank you all, thank you for everything. As I said earlier on, I can't wait for you all to see what's next, and that's going to do it for me today, everybody. Once again, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and until the next one, guys, RogueGold. Ow.